Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is week two of the 5 week crash course where we're going to be discussing placement, home care, assisted living, consulting, and the importance of building a community network through with our community liaison session. So today we're going to be talking about home care, and I want to apologize because my power been out. We were supposed to have this session last night. Power been crazy. I'm just going to record it here, and then we can kind of catch up throughout the week if you guys want to have a more in-depth discussion about what's going to be covered today. So feel free to as this course as we cover this week's training, take notes. If you have questions, take your questions, and then also feel free to post your questions in the group. I get notifications from the private group, and then also let me know if you guys have questions that you want to speak to me directly with, and then we could just we could schedule a phone call or Zoom or something like that. So, like I said, we're gonna talk about home care today and launch your private pay home care agency. Every home care client is a business milestone. That's what we're gonna be talking about today. So yeah, we're gonna get right into it. Ooh, so- Private pay. We really like private pay and long-term care insurance over what a lot of people talk about Medicaid and Medicare and stuff like that. Believe it or not, I've been doing this business for over 10 years now, and I've never used anything but private pay and long-term care insurance. How have I been able to pull this off? Is by focusing on specific zip codes in my marketplace. We'll get into that lately a little later, but the benefits of private pay is there's no billing delays, more flexible pricing, and faster payment. And that's all three of those things are very important when you first getting started and as you grow, Um from my understanding, there's a lot of hangups and stuff like that when it comes to Medicaid, Medicare. Um, you know, there's a lot of paperwork and there's a lot of, back and forth with the government being involved with how you get paid. And that's just something I've never been comfortable with. And, I just never wanted to put that in place because I didn't have to. Maybe if it was I felt like at certain points I thought I would have to, and I did go down that road. But as far as like the process of getting certified, but my personal agency, we just never needed it. We always started with private pay, really focused on referrals, really focused on other forms of marketing to keep the phone ringing, and we marketed our services to play people who can afford it, and that's what's always been the advantage and what's kept us in business for all these years. So yeah, just this is the kind of this training is going to be more focused on home care from a private pay perspective. Obviously, we know the demand. What's the amount of people who need these services in the country. So it's not just a Maryland thing or your city thing or wherever you're located. It's a national thing. It's a national industry that's is in high demand. And it's not going anywhere. So it's a perfect time to get in this business. And again, and like I always tell people when they first get started, like don't look at it like, okay, all these different companies is out here, all these different franchises out here, everybody getting licensed, but it's like it's so many people who need care. It's so many people that need care. And then it's like if you're doing the work and you're taking the steps, you're gonna find your three, five, eight, 10 clients that could really change the trajectory of your life in your finances, like in a major way. Like three clients, three full-time clients, could do a big thing for your company. It could do a big thing for your finances. It could do a lot of, you could make a lot of difference with 3 to 5 to 10 clients. If you have a agency and you only had, say, 5 clients in your first year, that's a good agency. If you can get 5 clients, if you get a full-time, a part-time, a live-in, and another full-time and another live-in, and you got 5 of those, you got 5 clients, and you can sustain that. One fall off, you get another one. One fall off, you might go to 6, you might go to 4, you might go to 7, you might go to 3, but you're right back. You're kind of like averaging 5. You'll do well. You'll do well, especially in your first year, and because you're not going to have no huge overhead like these franchises and these bigger companies. They struggle because it's a lot of things you can do that they can't do. You could charge less. You know what I mean? You could cover shifts a lot better most of the times because you have caregivers dedicated. You might have 2 or 3 dedicated caregivers where they got thousands of caregivers or hundreds of caregivers, and they just sending 2 or 3 caregivers to the same house. And them families is getting fed up with that. They don't like that. Most families don't like that, and that's an advantage you got. Another advantage you got is um you can charge less. You know what I mean? Everybody in the market trying to. It seems like no matter, that's been my major thing since the beginning was I always charge like less than most agencies in my market. So I go after the most expensive. I go into the wealthiest communities and I charge the least. You'll be surprised that people with money don't like to spend their money. And if all they see is agencies charging $35 an hour, $300 for a living a day, and you coming in there with $5 less, $7 less, $4 or $5 less, whatever you charging, and it's less than what they're seeing, they're gonna listen to you. Especially, you're coming with great referrals, you coming with a professional, you coming with great references, you coming with a professional business, you know what you're talking about, you got some a lot of time the people that I talk to and train, they got a lot of history in the industry. They've been doing it. Maybe they've been a caregiver, maybe they've been a nurse, maybe they've been a medical assistant or something like that, a phlebotomist. So you have some type of knowledge in the industry, you have a history. So when you're presenting this stuff, they see that your company is just as good as the company is charging 10, maybe 3, 5, $10 more, but they didn't know you existed. You know what I mean? They didn't know there was companies out there that they can find that could provide the same level of care, license, care that they can charge. They can, if they got long-term care insurance, they can use their long-term care insurance to pay you, and they didn't know that, so that gives you an advantage. So it's a lot of opportunities out here with this aging population, and obviously because you in this program, we're gonna be discussing home care, assisted living, and placement, and then eventually consulting. It's a lot of opportunity for all of this stuff right in your backyard. And like I said, you don't need the biggest facility. You just one person who's trying to start a business, right? Obviously, you don't want to work for nobody else, and you don't want to be on nobody else's time, and you want to actually build wealth. So when you think about like a franchise, a Bright Star, for example, that franchise, it's usually more than one person that they're trying to build wealth from this actual company, or it's a wealthy person who already got money who bought the franchise to build more wealth. So what they want and what they need and the amount of clients that they need and the size of their business that they needed to be for them to be successful is a lot larger than yours. So you don't need, like I'm trying to say, you don't need 50, 100 home care clients. You don't need 20, 30 bed facilities. You could get a 8 to 10 bed facility, have 10 to 20 home care clients, and doing 2 to 5 placements a month, and consulting. You got $1 million business. I just gave you $1 million business right there. So, and it's not That's not hard. That's a nice size single family or two. That's a well polished home care service that you've been out in the community building and developing relationships, um, and really going out into community. And I'm gonna say this real quick while I'm thinking about it. Like when I went to we've been doing we've been really going back into the community lately. Like I got a new community liaison and she's been going back into the community doing some stuff that we haven't done in a while, like some of the basic ground level work, like boots on the ground, back going to facilities, reintroducing our stuff. These facilities are telling us, these rehab centers in my market are saying like, yo, y'all the first people to be here in a long time. Like nobody's been doing this, like coming and passing out brochure. Like nobody's doing that, and I'm sure nobody's doing that in their market because everybody's trying to do the stuff online. The money is offline. Everybody can try to sell you, oh, like we run ads and stuff like that, but the money is offline. The money, the relationships are in person. When you walk into these rehab facilities, when you walk into these nursing homes, and you meet these you walk into the nursing home, everybody's scared to like I say this shit all the time, and nobody. It seems like I say, so how many? What you been doing? Nobody. If I say what you been doing for marketing, it's, oh, I can't find no clients. What you been doing for marketing? Um, I posted stuff on Facebook. I ran a Facebook ad. I did something like I emailed some people. I called a couple people. But you got a license. You got a license. Home care business. But you ain't did nothing beyond making some phone calls, posted something on some ads, created a website that nobody knows exists because you're not putting no money behind it on Google. How do anybody know you're there? All you have to do, even if you got a full-time job, you could schedule one, you could take one day out. I probably can't take one day out the week, but a lot of people work from home, especially in Maryland. Uh, Spend that whole day hitting facility. You could probably, if you start at 9 and go till 5 o'clock to when people start, start taking calls and taking calls or taking visits anymore. But them caseworkers is not there no more. You could hit 10 of them. You could hit 10 of them a day in one day. And if you're really serious and you really focus, and you could really develop some strong relationships. Not in that one day, but you could really begin to say, "Hey, I'm here. This is my material. This is what I'm doing. I'm pleased to meet you." Look them in their eyes, shake their hands, get their actual card to the case manager or social worker. All you got to do is walk in there and say, whether it's a home care, whether it's a nursing home, a rehab, or some physician's, physician's office, or whatever they deal with seniors. You walking in there and asking for the social worker. That's all you got to do. They're gonna say, "Hey, 1 second, boom," and they're gonna send you to their office, or they say they're not there. They're gonna give you their contact information, and then you start following up. But but I just wanted to make this point clear that when we recently we probably put another 200 brochure racks. I'll put all the links and stuff in the private group. But the brochure racks, the business cards in our marketing folder that we like to put out in these locations, and they were saying nobody's coming. Nobody's coming to their facility. Nobody's doing it no more. Like they said, people used to come, but everybody's trying to do everything online. So there's a huge opportunity to get back in the community and start meeting people face to face, shaking hands, and building relationships. And remember, if I don't say nothing else about this, it only take one or two good referral sources that like you and want to do business with you, and they're gonna keep sending you leads. They're gonna keep sending you clients because they get them all day. If you're in a rehab and it's a nice size rehab, they probably taking care of hundreds of people a month, and they got somebody they like, trust, and they feel like they're gonna work with. And everybody getting out of rehab need home care. Damn near everybody getting out. So they're gonna call you. Like, and then you blessing them, you sending them thank you cards, you giving them gift cards, you blessing the office. But we ain't gonna get into that. That's for the next service. I just wanted to make that point clear because I feel like I don't say it enough that there's the opportunities in the community. And like I said, what we just experienced, people they're telling us that nobody's been coming. So some of the services that we offer obviously is personal care, companion care, respite care, and living care. If you don't know what these things are, personal care is just bathing, dressing, hygiene assistance. Respite care is like relief from families where they might need an hour, but obviously we're not gonna do an hour. We'll do like express care, but they might need like 1 or 2 days a week, just out of the blue. There's nothing that they're gonna need constantly. That's respite care. We charge what we call express care, where we usually it's a minimum of 2 hours, and it's $200 just for those 2 hours, so we can come in. Or you and obviously you could play with those prices. It don't have to be 200 in your market, and even I'll take less if they're if they negotiate. But we do what we call express care for those respite care situations. Or sometimes people don't need a full schedule. They just need like a day or two. They might need 8 hours, but only one day a week. You know what I mean? So you try to do that the best you can. And then companion care obviously is social interaction activities and just monitoring people who, seniors who pretty active and they might want to do some stuff or they need somebody to talk to and their family just wants somebody there. There's not a lot of medical need there. And then living care is something else we offer. And this is where we really do well at is live in. So and a lot of you got to be careful because a lot of families think that a live-in means that the caregiver work 24 hours, and no, there's a specific contract that I'm gonna share with you guys as well. The live-in contract where it's 13 hours is the most they could work per day. They have to get 8 hours of sleep, 6 hours of uninterrupted sleep, so they could take 6 hours, then to make sure they get another 2 hours within that 24 hours. So they're not working more than 13 hours a day, and they're getting at least 8 hours of sleep, 6 hours uninterrupted sleep. So these are some of the services that we offer. And then obviously when it comes to setting up your business, LLC, EIN, financials like your business account and your business insurance. A lot of people been struggling with like finding insurance. I'll post a link. We found some really affordable insurance. We're not using Solutions Group anymore. We'll show you I think it's called Hitchcock. But we'll post a link in the private group, so you'll be able to access that if you want to, not if you want, but hopefully you get some business insurance. A lot of states don't require you to have insurance, believe it or not. Maryland doesn't require you to have insurance, but I would definitely suggest getting insurance. Obviously, you know about getting an LLC just for your for liability purposes. So if somebody falls or get hurt or caregiver does something or gets hurt as well, they can't come for you. They can't sue you. They can sue the LLC, the business entity. And then for taxes, obviously you want to have a tax ID number. So that's pretty basic. Um, when it comes to getting licensed through the state, each state is a little different. Maryland does require quite a bit of documentation. Obviously we help you get licensed as well. So we have a program where we walk you through the licensing process step by step. And usually they just want to see that they want to make sure that you have a clean background, that you have some experience in the healthcare field. Not usually, it doesn't have to be, doing home care per se, but that doesn't help. That doesn't hurt, obviously. Um, they want to see that you have a nurse for doing home care. Is in most states is nurse supervised. It's not a nurse services, but it's nurse supervised. So nurses create the care plans and oversee the company's care, and then the caregivers are the ones actually providing the care. So they want to make sure that you have all of those documents, and then they want to make sure that you have all your business stuff in place, like like I said, your LLC, your EIN. Your so workman's comp insurance is a little different. So they do want you. So sometimes different states want you to have workman's comp insurance. I said some states don't require insurance, but workman's comp is a little different. Maryland, you can get an exemption. I'm sure you can get exemptions in other states as well. Um, and then whatever other requirements to say like your nurses need and your caregivers are going to need, and they just want to make sure that you have your files and your documentation in order. Like what does a employee file look like? These are all the documents that the employee needs. These are all the documents that you have for your staff, for your residents. making sure your nurse, again, like I said, has all their certifications and everything is up to date. Everybody's training is up to date. Um, so that's usually what it is. And then most importantly is you get into your policies and procedures. Again, that's a whole process. Everybody's familiar with, like, if you looked at, starting a home care business or any type of business in the medical field, you're going to, run across the term policy and procedure. So, we can help you with that, obviously, but that's something that usually most states require. They do require a license because, believe it or not, some states don't even have licensing process. Like, they don't even have licensing for home care, but the states that do, they usually, are really strict. Um, Building your brand, man, it's really not hard to come up with a good brand name and logo design. Register your domain and have a nice looking website. But that's one part of it. Like, your teenager could do this part. Name the business, logo, create a name, build a little website. They got all these tools now. But the building your brand really is not about no social media marketing, becoming no influencer. None of that stuff matter. These people don't know. I mean, like, most people that I deal with, my clients, they don't care nothing about that shit on the internet. They want to know who you are and who sent you to them. So it's really important to build your brand in the community. Like, have your stuff set up on online that's looking good and where it's need to be, as far as like your Google, um your Google business. Like, you set up your Google business profile and all that. Get your code so they can know what address you have and all that, so it can all align with your website and everything like that. You have a nice presentation online, nice Facebook page, not putting nothing toxic, not your personal images and all of that stuff. You have um your nice website, but the real branding, like I said, it's in the community. It's getting out in the community, shaking hands, getting to know these people, getting to know all the people who are really active in this world, whether that's in different assisted livings, whether that's in different hospitals, uh, nursing homes, rehab centers, adult daycare centers, and the list goes on and on. Like, all you have to do is put in ChatGPT, give me a list of the top referral sources in my marketplace. Where are where are home care companies finding home care clients in my market as far as referral sources? And they're going to tell you. And you go to those places and you build relationships and you go to these events. You can also search. I did a search the other day, senior events in the community, and my particular market in Columbia, Maryland, senior community, for the senior community, for the senior population. Man, it was so many events. I couldn't believe. I was like, wow, man, I couldn't believe all of this stuff is geared toward the senior population. And all you gotta do, and you just pop up. If you can't have like a whole setup with a table and all that, just go. And obviously you can't go to everything. Try to go to one or two a month. That's how you build your brand. That's how you build your brand. That's how you build referral sources. This is how you start to, make sure you got, a good brochure, a good business card, and a good marketing folder. And I'm gonna show you how we got ours set up. In the actual I'm gonna upload a sample that we just did for a company into the private group. So don't overthink the online stuff and underthink the offline stuff. I would rather you underthink about the online stuff and over focus on the online stuff, the offline stuff, the community stuff. And then you could do like different packages, like you could offer different services and stuff like that. I wouldn't think about this too much in the beginning, but as you build clients and stuff like that, you can always add different things. Premium package, standard packaging, add on. This is just something you want to think about long term, but I don't want to spend too much time on this. If you want to talk about this a little further, we can get into it, but I just want to kind of move forward with the stuff. So what I want to what I want to talk about real quick is like um these three clients. So with a full-time client, I'm trying to make between eight to $1,200 a week profit. A month, I'm sorry, profit. A month. Eight to $1,200 a month profit. Part-time, half that, you know, 4 to 600 a month. A part-time client. A part-time client. This is what I'm trying to bring into my agency after the caregivers are paid and after all the expenses. I want to bring in per client 8 to 12 for a full-time, 4 to 6 for a part-time, and then around 1,000 a month for a live-in. Because a live-in, it's a lot of hours being, you're getting a lot of money, but most of it's going to the caregiver. Because if you put somebody in somebody's home, you want to make sure you got a good, solid caregiver. But like I said, if you're making at a minimum of 800 for your full time. This is one we just talking about three clients now, and this is what I want you guys to understand that you can make really good money off of 5 to 10 clients, and it's not hard to get 5 clients in a year. It's not if you really out here doing what you need to do, and then turning that 5 clients into 10, 15 clients in that following year, and you saying like five for the whole year. Yes, I'm saying that because they're gonna fall off. You might get up to 8 clients and you might drop back down to 4 or 6 or 7, you know what I mean, or 3, but you want to average five clients at all times. But we're just talking about your first three. 800 at a minimum for full time. 400 at a minimum. So it's the minimum. 8, 4, and 1,000. So we're talking about 2,200 that you should be making profit off 3 clients. That's a month. That's profit. Every month, if you could have at least one full-time client, one part-time client, and one live-in. Now, obviously, you can make a lot more. I'm just saying these are my numbers based on how I set up pay and all of that stuff, and like what I pay the caregivers. These are my targets and what I want to make. I want to make at least 800. I'm happy. We can make 9, 10, 11, 12. Very seldom we make more than 13 off of one full-time client, depending on how much hours they're getting. And then you gotta think about overtime and paying the caregiver time and half and stuff like that. So there's only just kind of like a range. But overall, that's what I'm trying to get to. So, like again, we could discuss this stuff further. Like I said, I just want to come on here and record something for y'all, so y'all didn't have, y'all didn't miss out this week. Our power's going in and out here in Annapolis, so I got some Wi-Fi. So I'm just saying I'm gonna go ahead and get this presentation out the way. Again, we can go into the deeper numbers as in off off this training and like in the private group, and we'll do a private Zoom. Hiring caregivers. A lot of people say, "Oh, how do we find caregivers? How do we find caregivers?" Indeed, number one way. Number one way. Indeed. You get your market. So this is how this is how, okay, I keep saying about like I focus on specific markets. I go to the top 5 wealthiest counties in my area. That's where I started. That's what I always focus on. The top 5 wealthiest counties. Just Google in Georgia. What's the top 5 wealthiest counties? Boom. That's where you start. And then you put your ads. Just like you're gonna start looking for families to serve out there, you're gonna look for caregivers who live in that community who can also get to that community, whether they live out there or transportation. They got transportation that gets to those and you post ads. You start posting Indeed ads as soon as you get licensed. So you before you get any clients, you start building that list of with that database of caregivers. Because obviously you're gonna have 100 caregivers. 10 of them you'll fool with. 90 of them you ain't dealing, you don't want no parts of their world. And y'all just know how it go. Y'all just know how people be living. A lot of people is doing caregiving, but it's only a few of them who's serious, and it's only even a smaller few that you want to have working with you. And what do you offer? Like Facebook is cool. They used to offer a job thing. They not so much. Um, but Indeed is the top place for me. CNA schools, you can have like a you could work with some CNA schools and that depends because I like to have some experience, but you gotta have you gotta give some of the caregivers a chance. You'll be surprised some caregivers, younger ones and stuff like that. And then like, listen, you can't discriminate. You can't discriminate. I'm not promoting discrimination, so you gotta be careful with that. Even in when you posting and creating your ads, you can't be like, oh, I want people that's older than such and all of this. So you can't do that. You can't say, oh, I want only black women and all of this. Now, let me tell you something. The data says the best caregivers are single black women over the age of 40 who go to church. And there's a couple other criteria. I'm not creating that criteria. The benchmark, the Home Care Pulse, I forgot that they got a new name of their company, Home Care Pulse. But if you go to Home Care Pulse benchmark study, they do a study every year, and we get that report every year, and it tells us exactly what other agencies across the country are dealing with. And they got all these different breakdowns, all the things that's working for marketing, all the things that they're doing for hiring, the pay rates, what's the threats, the SWOT analysis, all of that stuff, the marketing that's working. They have all of this stuff in the benchmark. So when you look at the benchmark, it asks and sometimes we get asked to participate in the benchmark as well, but it asks all the top. I think it's like a top 1,000 the home care services in the country, not the small ones like we talk about, like the millionaire, the multi-million-dollar, the big agencies. They all dealing with the same problems, but they say give us they ask they ask the companies what's the profile of the caregivers that work out the best. Black women who go to church, over 40, single with no kids. Those are your best caregivers. Now, obviously, you just want to say, okay, let me plug this into Indeed, and just no, you can't do that. But when you start to hire, I just want y'all to be aware of that because I'm not telling y'all to only hire black women, single with no kids, over 40. Obviously, I can't tell you that, and I don't want you to do that because that's discrimination for everybody else. But understand that's the data, and that's what it works. Competitive pay. So like when I say I try to charge, um I always try to charge, our services less than everybody else. I'm gonna always try to pay more than everybody else, the best I can. So I'm taking a smaller cut, but usually that works to my benefit because I got a more consistent, um, and motivated caregiver, and then I got a family who appreciates the price point. Again, and that goes back to why I'm only making 8 to 12 for a full time, and like you could really stretch them numbers out and really make some good money, a lot more money. But then it's like you're bleeding, you might be bleeding or milking the cow way faster than what the family might can't afford it for but so long. And you got to think about that. Do you want this family to be able to pay and afford services longer or shorter? Obviously you want to you want them to last as long as possible. You want their money to you want them to be able to afford to care as long as possible, and you want to be able to hire a caregiver for as long as possible. You want them to stay there as long as possible. So you take a little less as a company because you can afford to take it once like I said, once you build up your company and start you have 5, 10, 15 clients. You can start making some of these decisions to pay a little more, um and charge a little less. So everybody benefit. You benefit as well, obviously, but the caregivers get a little bit of better pay, and the families don't have to pay as much. And then obviously you offer competitive pay, scheduling, and then ongoing support. And one thing that's not here is a continued education. Like people really underestimate the power of continued education. Like people like to learn, and if you pay for people to learn and you just offer it as an add on to their job, they really appreciate that. So if I'm off, but I like to offer caregivers since we in this assisted living business. I like to offer caregivers the opportunity to take the 80 hour manager's course. So if they want, we'll pay for that. And then obviously, if they want to, get a career in that, we can use them. We'll work with them. So we offer that, and then we'll go to like In the Know. It used to be In the Know. I think In the Know is another like online training place. We used to go to another place. It's not there no longer, but now it's In the Know. They do a lot of online training, so you could set your caregivers up for like $125 a month. You could put 10 caregivers in this training, and they can take classes every month. You know what I mean? What I like to do is make it mandatory so they're constantly growing and learning new things about the industry. That like In the Know, it's like it's online, so they get certification. They might learn some stuff about dementia. They might learn some stuff about Parkinson's. They might learn some stuff about dealing with different mental stuff or different emotional stuff for them, and different families and stuff like that, and how to just deal with different circumstances. So it's just a lot of training. There's hundreds and hundreds of hours on here, and you like I said, you could, for like 150, like 100, 125, $150, you could put 10 caregivers in here, and they're doing ongoing training. They're getting certifications, and they're just becoming better at what they do. And caregivers appreciate that. Caregivers appreciate that. And if you set that as a precedent up front, and don't try to like throw it in like on the back end, like, oh, we want to do it. It's like, no, this is part of, your job. This is part of what we expect is for you to do like an hour of training, probably, maybe you could probably do an hour a week, depending on the, I would make it dependent upon the amount of hours they got. So if you only giving them part-time hours, I wouldn't be trying to shove no hour a week down their throat. You know what I mean? But if they're like a full-time caregiver, I would definitely think about giving them at least an hour a week of training that they can do online. Like, all of it's online. They can do it on their phone. Obviously, I don't want them doing it at work, but you want them to get it done. And they get their certification, and you can see exactly, you can track what they're learning and what they're doing, and obviously the time they spend on the app, and you can see that. So competitive pay, schedule flexibility, ongoing support, and then continue education is a great way to recruit and keep good caregivers. And just being empathetic all the time. Empathy is the most important thing when it comes to keeping caregivers. I just had to let go two of my caregivers that were, because they were working with a client that that just passed for 7 years, and like having caregivers that long is like family, like no question. Like no question. It's nothing else to say. It's like family. Like they need. So I gotta make sure she has work, prepared for her, and doing stuff for her and stuff like that. Um, they need a loan, or what I mean, stuff that they need, like family. Like sometimes man, it gets deep. You know what I mean? Like, hey man, I had to pay this and that. Groceries came up. Boom, can I get this? Can you help me with like all of that stuff? So empathy, empathy, being empathetic. Like, I'm not just trying to make money, hoard it, and go spend all my money and do whatever, do just be splurging. Like, no, this is a business. A business is a group of people to come together to complete a mission, and that's everybody included. It's not just for me to take the money and just go spend it, and don't give back to the people who actually making me make the money. Like, if it wasn't a caregiver, I wouldn't have no job. I wouldn't have no income, because listen, I don't do that kind of work. You know what I mean? I don't know how obviously I'm not ignorant. I can do it physically, but that's not what I've never touched a resident or a patient in my life. So caregivers are everything to me. And we got to take care of them, and we got to make sure they get what they need when they need it. Obviously, some people do come around, and they've been with you for a month, and then they start acting weird, and asking and just doing, them. You got to know who's who. You can't play with every. You can't. Everybody's not, like I said, family, or somebody that you want to be dealing with is in an employer-employee situation. But you definitely want to take care of the people who stick with you. Clear title, position and responsibility, pay transparency, and call to action. Simple application process, job posting. This is a job posting blueprint. Indeed, gonna give you all of this exactly what you need. It walk you through the entire process. It got trainings built into it. Like, Indeed is so dope. It's like um it got tests that they could take. They could leave voices. They could do it like interview. Like, it's so much automation built into Indeed. If you really dig down into it, like, you'll have so much stuff because you want all of this stuff done for you in advance before because like once you post ads you don't want to have to go through all this stuff, so you're gonna have all these different prerequisites like how many years that they've been doing it, what certification they got, do they got their CNA, do they got their CMT, do they got their first aid, their first aid CPR and first aid, like how many jobs they done had in the last, such and such. Like they had five different agency jobs in the last, 6 months. They might not be somebody you want to deal with because they bouncing around a lot. So um all of this stuff is done perfectly on Indeed. I would definitely suggest put posting all your jobs there, interviewing. We went to after interviewing and onboarding, interviewing. We after Zoom. I mean, after COVID, we went straight to Zoom. We stopped having people come to the office because it was just obviously you couldn't. So we got stuck. We stayed with that program. It was pretty effective and efficient. Now we have our virtual assistants, our VAs. We have a lady in the Caribbean who does our videos, our interviews. She's excellent. Very good English. She's in the Caribbean, and she walks them through the interview, through the questionnaire, the script that we have. We'll post the script up there for you guys, and she goes through all the checklists, all the documentation that they need, everything that they're going to need. Prepares them for a actual interview with somebody on our end, like somebody in the company, who's stateside. Gets all our so we get a full package from her. We get the hour, probably sometimes it goes to an hour, like 45 minutes to an hour video recording that we get from Zoom. We get all, everything, all of their documentations and all the training and everything that they went to, and then everything that they got as far as, what they're gonna need to work. And we get that package before we even talk to them. So we get to say, okay, we can look at this person and then um we'll decide whether we want to reach out to them based on what we see in that interview information. So that's how we do it. Um, I would suggest doing something similar. You could do interviews individually, like in person, but I guarantee if you don't do group interviews, have multiple people show up at one time, you're gonna be very disappointed. Even before COVID, getting one person, if you schedule like one person interview, and then they don't show, and you to set up your whole situation, and you done got this people, and they don't show, that was happening a lot. You do not want to put yourself through that. You do not want to go through scheduling because everybody say yes, I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna meet me. Da, 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 da. Especially if you got an office or virtual office, or you meeting them at a library or a coffee shop, and you just doing it, and you want to meet them and do it, you're gonna be just sitting there. A lot of them not gonna show. So having a virtual assistant set up to where they're going through the Indeed. The virtual assistants, they manage the Indeed and they manage the interview process. So we're only getting highly qualified people who are showing up to the to the interview online, who've been going back and forth, sending their documentation. We got the ID, we got everything before we even talk to them. So I would suggest something like that. And again, I can explain it to you exactly how we're doing that if you have any questions, but it's pretty straightforward. You have your virtual assistant managing your Indeed account. They're seeing all the email. They're seeing all the people who fit the criteria because Indeed, it's like a score. Like, oh, they meet four things out of your five requirements or three things out of your. We only want the people who meet all the requirements. So they get through all of them. They reach out to them, whether they call them or shoot them an email. If they call them, shoot them an email, to schedule the interview, do the interview. They get on it. If they make it to the interview, they get on the interview. They go through the questionnaire, see how they respond. We could watch the actual video once we get it to see if they did a good interview. That's only if they got all their documentations and everything they need. Um, and then we move forward with actually meeting them and taking them to that next level. So that's pretty much how we do it. Once they get hired and once we feel like there's somebody we like, we'll put them with like a we don't do I probably should be doing more as far as like training. But like I said, we like to really get an idea of like some of the questions that we ask kind of tell us if they've been on the jobs before and like some of the different things that they have encountered. But we do like them to like at least do a couple shifts with a senior caregiver, somebody like we call a mentor, a caregiver mentor, where they can, just go through the day, um, a few hours out the day with a specific resident or a specific client so we can see how they do and then the client the caregiver let us know they good, they knew what they were doing, they knew what they were talking about, they did good, they was communicating with the family well, da 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 da. And that's how we do it. So um again, this is just, this is our boarding process. Everybody, our onboarding and interview process. A lot of people do different things. But if you guys want to, have, like I said, have any questions or, want to talk a little bit more about this in particular, let me know and we'll go deeper into it. Um, Scheduling and client management, very important. Like, how are you going to measure, manage all of these schedules and, the clients and, call outs and all of this and all that. Another opportunity for you to hire a virtual assistant or somebody in the office, or you could do this at the very beginning, because it won't be much. I would suggest using a less expensive. They got a lot of stuff out there as far as like Access Care, ADLware, and the list goes on. There's so many out there, right now, but I'm not going to promote anybody right now because I'm not, happy with the people we dealing with right at the moment. So I'm not going to push nobody. But I'm gonna tell you this: you start with Homebase. Start with Homebase. It's called Homebase, and I thought it was for home care, but it's just for all businesses in general. And one second, my dog is about to start acting up. Let me send this message real quick. So yeah, Homebase. It's homebase.com and they got a lot of free stuff. They do a lot of you could do your scheduling on there, you could do payroll on there, you could put your clients in there. It's a really good um piece of software and it's free for, so some of the basic stuff that you're gonna need to do. Telling my son to come get this daggone dog. So, yeah, and you could have, they got a lot of tools in there. You could set up templates. You could do like live-in rotations, and then like software or Google Sheets. I wouldn't suggest Google Sheets. That'll get kind of like ugly. That's like an Excel spreadsheet. I mean, unless you really know what you're doing with Excel. But I would just go ahead and get home base, and then as you grow you could start looking at the different home care softwares. And just when you can always negotiate with these companies. Don't think that they're just like set and stuck on one price like these home care softwares. And then also when it comes to like care client management, care plans and stuff like that, you can use ChatGPT to create the actual documents, and then you just keep the documents in like a like Google Docs. I like Google Docs. It's really good, private. As long as you got like two-step verifications on there, that's pretty secure. And then also obviously you want to have hard copies for your office at home. But yeah, when it comes to a software, and obviously you want to not only just have a software for scheduling in your clients, but also you want to have a CRM, which is a customer relationship management, where you can also put your clients' information in, or your leads more so, not your clients, your leads, because your leads are the people that you're going to constantly have to, send out, emails to and constantly kind of touchbacks to touch up with. And then also that's where you're going to put your referral sources as well as into your client, your CRM, your client relationship management software. So home base for like scheduling and then your caregivers and stuff like that, and then Zoho for your CRM, your customer relationship management. When that goes for you, you put your leads in there. You can put your current clients in there as well. making sure you're sending them like greeting cards and thank yous and staying up on that kind of stuff. And the customer relationship management helps you manage that process. It makes it a lot simpler. So we can, if you have any questions about how to set this stuff up, Homebase is really simple, but then Zoho CRM, it's called Zoho CRM. Zoho is a big software, but they have like a CRM, and that's free as well. I was on the free version for years, so you can get a lot out of the free version. Don't be ashamed of using that free version all the way to the max, and you'll get a lot done with that. So that's Homebase and Zoho CRM. So how do we do like our intake process for new clients is whether whether we get like a referral or they come from like marketing. I'll talk a little bit about both. If say like if a facility sends us a resident, usually they give the family our name, and then the family will give us a call like that. Sometimes the resident the if it's like a specific case, and definitely for assisted living, like if somebody's coming to stay, the facility the say for example the rehab will call us and let us know, hey, we have this person that this is looking for placement. Can we send over our nurse, and then our nurse will go do the assessment, and then we'll go from there with and meeting the family and all of that. If that's somebody we want to actually bring in, because we don't take everybody, because we have a certain standard for ourselves, like what type of people we want to deal with. Like we're not if your house isn't so just a little off track, but if when you're getting a particular, say if you're bringing a resident in, you don't want to bring somebody who's combative, verbally aggressive, verbally, rude and stuff like that, into a home that's not the temperature. So you got to be real careful. So we don't take everybody, no matter how much they paying. You don't want to put somebody bring some, and you don't want to bring somebody who's laid back into a home where they're taking that, where you have two or three combative, aggressive, kind of turned up residents. So and that all depends on what your standard is. And if you're okay with that, you're going to make more money, obviously. And if you're okay with those level of clients, then that's cool. But just make sure that the families understand that that these certain kind of residents are there, and that you don't want to kind of mix. You know what I mean? You want to make sure that there's um not saying that certain people can't live with other type of people, but you don't want to put somebody who's just like really quiet down, laid back, don't want to don't like all that noise, and then you got somebody who be screaming or kind of rowdy and all that stuff. You just don't want to mix them. But that's what happens if they call us for assisted living placement, a resident. But if we're looking at like a home care situation, say for example, the family calls us, it's usually a brief phone call. We don't never give no info. We try to give as little bit as information over the phone. We want to get as much information as we can instead of doing a whole bunch of talking on the phone. Because our goal is to get into the property. I mean, get into the family's home and do our consultation. We want to do our consultation in the home, not on the phone. Because the phone, it's like they'll get all the questions answered, and then they really don't, they could kind of keep shopping around. So you want to kind of you want to give them as less information as possible. And y'all will learn this in the Sandler training, sales stuff that we in some of the required reading that we're going to discuss over the course of this training. But you want to do majority of you want to do a lot of listening. You want to do a lot of your listening on the phone and less talking. So you could just get, okay, okay, we can help with that. That's perfect. That's exactly what we can help with. Let me, when can we schedule a time for us to meet? And then boom, you go to the in-home assessment. I like to send, if I can, I would send a nurse or somebody who's very familiar with this process. I've never done it. Yeah, I've done it like way in the early beginning with my ex-wife and my first company and all that, but I haven't been to a in-home assessment. But what we like to do is go in there, meet with the family, really check out the layout of how they're living. Um, get as much information as we can, see who the POAs are, like who's the power of attorney, who the decision makers are, making sure we're talking to them when present our information to the right people, and just doing a basic needs evaluation. Um, if if a nurse doesn't go and it's just somebody that just goes in there from the office or somebody from the company who does it, not the nurse, we'll send back a nurse and say, hey, look, we want to send the nurse back. If you guys want to move forward, we want to definitely make sure to do a nurse eval before, so we can know exactly what this person needs before we send a caregiver in. So, and then that the nurse comes and create the care plan. And then you get the contract signed, and then you get all the consent forms and everything like that. Your whole your whole client package, which we'll put all the information in there, and you should have a business in the box. So, all of that stuff is in the business in the box. So, all of those documents, but yeah, it's a pretty straightforward process. Most of the time, like I said, it comes over the phone. You try to get as less information as possible. The in-home assessment, you come, you meet with the family, see what the needs are. You present your services, and then if they want to move forward, the nurse comes and does an assessment. And well, you can sign the agreement before the assessment, and then the nurse comes back and does the care plan. And then you start working on placing a caregiver in that family's home. So that's pretty much the process. Again, if you have any questions or anything, just feel free to post them in the comments in the group under the video, under the replay, and then we can go from there. And again, if this is something that you want to talk about, also just feel free to remind me to on our next call. Building trust with family. So communication, clear expectations from day one, progress updates, regular reports on clients' well-being, issue resolution, prompt complaint handling process. So once you have this client as a once you bring this client on board, it's very, very important. Communication if the lack of communication, I've lost many a clients being too comfortable and not communicating enough. You lose the good clients are clients that pay every week, don't complain, and they love the caregiver, and the caregiver go to work on time, and there's no complaints. But if you don't communicate and there's things that's happening and you don't know, these clients could just be going along every week paying, and you're not hearing that. You're just happy you're getting the money, and shit is happening. Things are festering, and you don't know it until it just bang one day you just stop. And this has happened to me quite a few times. So you gotta be communicating. You gotta be communicating. You gotta be checking in with the family. You gotta be checking in with the caregiver, making sure that the family likes the caregiver. Because sometimes they feel like they can't say nothing bad about the caregiver. You know what I mean? And I don't, it's just some people are like that. So and they don't want to say nothing. Who wants to say something bad about somebody, so somebody toxic? So it's like they don't want to necessarily bring up a problem. It might be something slight, something, and they might be uncomfortable with it, but they're just dealing with it. But eventually, they might not want to deal with it no more. So you got to make sure that you're giving them an opportunity to express those issues. Hey, how's everything going? Is the caregiver doing this? Or if it's any problem, anything slight, anything that we could change, anything that we could talk to her about, anything we could do better. These conversations has to happen. Don't have to happen every week, but you definitely want to make sure that they have the opportunity to vent and get and let you know, because sometimes they go say, hey man, we doing great, we love her, mom loves her, dad loves her, the family, we love this character. That's great. Boom. And guess what you do after that? You send them that that link to your review page, so they can put that review right there on your Google or wherever else you put in your reviews at, care.com, all that. So communication is very important. Another thing is progress updates. People need to know, the families, the well-being. Obviously, you want the nurse to go in there every 45 days to do like, updates on their health and stuff like that. That's a requirement. So a state requirement a lot of times. So they go in there, they update their care plan and stuff like that. And you want the family to know if they're declining, if they're doing better, if they're eating and stuff like that, gaining weight, losing weight, stuff like that. And you want to make sure that you're giving the family those clear reports. And another thing is just what's the issue resolution process. Like, how do you deal with problems? Do you panic? Do you do rash things? Do you get to the bottom of it? Do you hear both sides of the story? Because sometimes families be telling them caregivers, and then it's sometimes I'm gonna tell you a lot of times it be the family member who ain't got nothing to do with. They wasn't even involved with the help before the caregiver get there. Now the caregiver there, and now they want to be part of the whole process. And it's family. This family, you know how family is. So, and then that could be a big issue. You know what I'm saying? So you got to definitely make sure that you have a clean way for you to communicate with the families and get them to hold on one second, to get them to be able to resolve these problems or anything, the issues that come up, and have like whether they get just text, call, leave a message. So different things like that when it comes to dealing with issues, complaints. 1 second. Getting your first clients. Referral sources, Google Business, social media. Number one way is referral sources. Now, I'm gonna say this. Facebook ads will work really, really well. Google ads work really well, but they cost. Referral sources don't cost. It's not a big financial investment up front. It's time, it's relationships, it's getting to know people. And another thing that I should have put on here is um referral placement agencies. Like a place for moms, they do home care placement. They do home care referrals. So you could buy referrals from them. I think it's like $50, $60 a referral. Seem like a lot, but you start making that money off one, and that $50 ain't nothing. So Google cause different referral or we call them referral placement services are in different areas. So a place for mom I know is one that gives you home care. So since we just talking about home care, a place for mom gives you home care leads. The caring.com and care.com may give you home care leads. I know they give you assisted living leads, but and what else? And then bandit signs. Like I post them all the time, and I'll post a image of them, how those work as well. We put like street signs. If you ever seen like the realtor signs, or like we buy house signs, we put those kind of signs in different major intersections in our target communities on Fridays, and then we pick them up on Sundays. And they do really well when it comes to uh getting your phone ringing quickly. Obviously this it's a long-term strategy, but it's it kind of take a lot of effort, and with signs, you can run into some people just complaining, but so that's why you put them out on Friday and pick them up on Sunday so the city never sees them. Um, and if you leave them out, the city going in different areas they will complain, but for the most part, the thing you want to focus on in the beginning is those signs, referral placement, things like a place for mom, buying leads, getting there with them, putting your company on those different websites. Um, so you got to go to sites sites that refer home care leads, home care clients, because a lot of them do assisted living, but not all of them do home care and assisted living. I know we get leads from a place for mom and care.com, I think. Because we pay them for both assisted living and home care. So when it comes to social media, it's tricky. So if you start, you don't think you're gonna get a call just because you posted an ad. Be prepared to spend at least, $10, $15, $20 a day for 3 months before you start seeing any strong results. You can get a call the next day, obviously, because they're gonna put it in front of the people. Just make sure you know what you're doing when you're setting up these ads. Obviously, we can walk you through how to set up these ads. Google as well. You setting up your Google business page, but then also you can run ads through your Google business page. Same thing. You definitely want to start with about $10 to $15 a day, and then kind of gradually build up as you start getting leads. As the leads, the ads actually make you money. You want to increase the budget. But like I said, the number one thing is these referral sources, churches, rehabs, hospitals, places like this. Um, uh, Different law firms is a good thing. I'm just trying to think of different referral sources, but what you want to do is put the top referral sources in your market for home care referrals. Put that in your ChatGPT and see what they say. And those are the places that you begin to market to. Once they give you a list, they might say assisted livings, nursing homes, adult daycare centers, rehab facilities, elder law attorneys. They might say these five things, and then you say, give me a list of 25 assisted livings or elder law attorneys or rehabs or adult daycare center, and then you build that list. Stay in your 5 counties. If you're gonna do 2 counties or 3 counties, stay in your 3, 4 counties, wherever you're going to market, and then you start showing up at these locations. You start showing up at these locations with your brochures, with your business card, with your brochure rack, and your marketing folder. Building these referral relationships, approaching case managers, materials to bring, professional introduction, always have your stuff looking presentable. Um, Always have your, obviously your how you dress and everything well put together, but then also your material. Um, if a lot of times you won't be able to sit down and talk to them on their first visit. A lot of people say, "Oh, I just want to call them." Say like calling is like the short. It's trying to cheat the game. You gotta show up. You know what I mean? If you can't show up, you gotta send somebody that can show up. So you have to, somebody has to be showing up to these places, or you have to be showing up to these places. Um, and then when you finally get to that meeting, you sit down and you go over your services and the different things that you offer. And he definitely the number one thing people fail at is they don't follow up. You have to follow up with these people. You have to constantly be in their face. If you get a list of 25 rehabs, 25 nursing homes, 5 or 6 hospitals in your area, or different facilities where seniors are, adult daycare centers, whatever, and you get a list of take all together 20, 100 people, 20 of each, 25, 20, 20 each. Put them in your CRM, in your Zoho CRM. Once you meet them, once you get their business card, you put their business card in there and into that CRM. Now you got 100 referrals, people that you actually sat down and talked to. Now what? You continue to follow up with them. You figure out different ways based on those conversations that you had to help them and bring value to them. What type of things do they need at their facility? What can you do? What kind of new, interesting, and exciting things that you can bring to the table? And then obviously the materials you bring. You want to bring your brochures, your your business cards, your referral tracker, and you want to make sure you have a nice um marketing folder. You want to have that nice marketing folder. And again, we're going to discuss all this. I just want to make sure we're covering it. So if you have any questions, we can always go back to it. Um, like scheduling, like I said, you could use like Care Smart Access Care. Um, when it comes to payments, I would say QuickBooks or Square. Communication, I would start with Google Voice just to have that, because it's going to track everything. It's going to show you all of it's going to come as an email. So it's a really good way to track all your calls. So you can have a Google Voice for each form of communication. You can have a Google Voice for your caregivers, a number for your caregivers to call. You can have a Google Voice for your clients and families. Once they, you can have a Google Voice for your leads. for people that you're getting from referrals and stuff like that. So you have all these different numbers so you can track and see what's everything, and they all go into one phone. That's the beauty with Google Voice. You can all go to one phone. So yeah, this is, but like I said, start with home base. Definitely get QuickBooks. You're gonna need QuickBooks in eventually. So I would just start with QuickBooks and just use that for your payment thing. But if you ain't into QuickBooks and all that, everybody not. There's different options. But yeah, and then if you want to do something different with the phone, but I would definitely start with um Google Voice. And I like this low cost stuff in the beginning because people start getting all these different paid thing. Like you get the access care, that's $100 a month. Then you get a paid a phone service, that's $20 a month. And you think, oh, it's only $100 a month. Oh, it's only $20 a month. Oh, then you got like 30 different bills you paying, 20 different 10, 15 bills you paying, and you ain't got no clients yet. You don't want to do that. So start with the cheap stuff and then kind of scale up later. And like I said, we talked about Zoho, CRM, and Homebase. So don't forget those. The required reading for this month is Close the Deal. I feel like this is a very important book. Um, Key benefits is qualified leads confidently. So that's always like, is this person qualified to give me the information that I need, or qualified to give me the business that I'm looking for? Apply for family consultations is really good for that. Master closing techniques and use proven scripts. So this book is really important. This is by Sandler, sales training. It's called Close the Deal. Get this book and read it, man, and take your time with it. Read it again. And he has a whole bunch of other books. So once you read that one, it's like just start going down this training tunnel of learning how to sell, learning how to close, and making sure the people who going in front of families, whether that's you or somebody else, read this stuff as well, so they can know how to close and they can know how to uh close the deal, because that's important. You don't want to spend all this money, use all this time, and then get to the closing table where it's actually that consultation, that in-home consultation, and you can't get them to sign on that dotted line. That's a tragedy. So understand it's not by accident when people close and people who don't close. The people who close, it's on purpose. It was intentional. They had the skill set. They study sales, and that's what makes the difference. So I want you guys to do the same. And yeah, that's it for this week. Um, if you having any issues with setting up your documentation, go ahead and finalize your documents, post two caregiver jobs, set up a scheduling system like with home base, something like that, and then practice mock intakes, compete with a partner, you know. And yeah, and that's what we're doing for this week. Again, I apologize for having to do it like this. We had some trouble on the first week where we couldn't get on. Um, I think we had a time zone issue with one lady, and then this week I had this damn power outage, like our shit going in and out. So I'm my generator running now. So my generator was out yesterday. I had to go get a hotel room, come back, get the generator fixed. Boom. So now we're trying to, I just want to do this, and then hopefully the city will have everything wrapped up for next week. I'm sure it'll be wrapped up for next week. We ain't in no damn, third world country. It's gonna be done next week, but it's been tough these last couple of days. So, thanks for working with me, and I look forward to hearing from you guys in the chat. And again, feel free to call me, set up a call so we could discuss any of this. We could do another Zoom in between time. We don't gotta wait till next Thursday. If you guys want to cover some stuff, we just want to talk, or you have any questions about what we covered so far for week 1 and week 2. All right. Thanks a lot.